Hey, this is Dr. Jonathan Shepard coming to you on another Friday afternoon, Friday evening, depending on where you live and reside, with Ask the Doctors broadcast. It is good to be with you all again. Today is Friday, March the 5th. It's a new month. This is hopefully the month that we will see spring. It's kind of cold out here in the Baltimore area, but we're hopefully going to be warming up by the end of this month. You know, they say that March comes in like either a lion or a lamb and then ends out vice versa. At least that's what they say, old wives' tale, so to speak. But it's so good to see so many of you all here. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, Mrs. Barbara Johnson. We're so grateful that you're here, who has been on our show before, and we'll be talking more about her, I'm certain. I am so grateful people are already logging in. We have such an extraordinary topic today, and I'm very excited about it. Let me just jump right on into preliminaries introduction. This show is broadcasted through Hope Health Systems. That is the sponsor. That is the company in which I work for. A direct care agency that services the mental health needs of all persons, children, adolescents, adults. And I want to make sure that you know that there is an agency out there that is still taking persons who are in need of mental health issues or in mental health treatment, I should say. And please hit us up, 410-265-8737. And I'll give some more information at the end of the broadcast. Today's broadcast is so important. I just want to start out a little bit to let you all know that you should still be wearing your mask. I don't have my mask handy. I was planning on having my mask right by me, but please, you need to still wear your mask, and you need to have double mask. Yes, so I've even started wearing two masks. Yes, I am aware of Governor Abbott in Texas, and even those in other governors who are considering lifting the mask mandate. But please know that the public health officials, including myself, are letting you know that it is a little too early to lift the public restrictions. Why are you saying that, Dr. Shepard? I'm saying that because, yes, the vaccines are out. The vaccines are being rolled out, and thankfully, we are revving up the vaccines, and now 2 million people are getting the vaccine per day. That's awesome. That's awesome news. But we want to let you know that just because the vaccines are out, the coronavirus has not gone anywhere. I was just sharing with someone today that the coronavirus was here before I was even born. Coronaviruses have been here a long time. We want to make sure that people understand that coronavirus, even the particular strain that's out there right now, is not going anywhere. Coronaviruses have been around for a long time. They are the reasons why we have the common cold. And with that said, we need to know that we have to learn how to live with the virus. Unless God himself comes in and eradicates the virus is going to be here. So we still have to maintain certain hygienic measures to make sure that we do not catch the virus or spread the virus to those persons who are unvaccinated. Because that is my concern now, is that there are people who still have comorbidities. What is a comorbidities? An ailment that will worsen the disease or the contraction disease if you well, let me say it like this. Comorbidity is if you have an ailment that if you contract the disease, it would make that ailment that you already have worse. I think that's a better way of saying that. So if you have asthma, if you have a breathing problem and you contract the disease, it can literally make your asthma worse. It can also cause treatment for you to not work as well as with those who may not have those chronic diseases. So what am I saying? We have to remain vigilant. Here in Baltimore, I must give my due respect to Brandon Scott, to Mayor Brandon Scott, as he has been fighting on behalf of those people who don't have internet access, who don't have the accessibility, the transportation to get to the mass vaccination sites. It's wonderful that we have the supply, but we got to get the supply to the people who need it. And so my job today is just to continue to educate, to come on here to let you know that it is not time to drop your mask. It's not time to drop your washing of your hands. It's not time to drop watching your physical distance. It is not time to start having huge gatherings. We want to make sure that we're remaining safe, that we're remaining in some type of way that makes sure that for our fellow brethren, for our fellow women and men, that we are doing our due diligence and making sure that we are staying safe. I hope this has helped you today. I'm very passionate about this. And I think that's all I need to say for today. Again, I'm going to kind of reset the room. I thank you, Chris, again, for joining us. Miss Barbara Johnson, Marie Harris, Dr. Harris. Oh, wow. She's on here. Wonderful to see you, Dr. Harris. My friend, Dr. Linnell Perry, has joined. Peggy Ford, Sarah Therese White from Orlando, Florida. Oh, man, I wonder, are they wearing masks in Orlando, Florida? Hit me up. Tell me. I want to know, are you all wearing masks? Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to know the answer, but at least let me know. We got friends who are across the country who join in on this show, and then I also want to acknowledge those persons who are going to watch the replay. We get triple the number of views through replay. So again, thank you for all those persons who go back and watch. And I want you to get on the phone right now. I am ready to present our guests. Man, this is tremendous. You might need to get you some tissue. You might need to get you a handkerchief or something to dab your eyes, because I guarantee you this is going to be a tearjerker today. This is going to be something that will inspire you, move you to want to do better. So I am pleased to bring on three ordinary mothers who are doing extraordinary things. Man, I love it. And so with that said, I want to start with Lady Rochelle Jones, and she's going to come on, and let me just go ahead and just bring her on without further ado. Lady Jones. Oh, wow, we got another person from Pensacola, Florida. How are you doing, Lady Jones?
I am doing well, Dr. Shepherd. How are you?
I'm doing good. Oh, I'm so glad to see you and that bright smile of yours. Yeah. So introduce yourself to the audience. Introduce yourself to the viewers of Ask the Doctors.
Okay, I am so glad to be here, and I thank Dr. Shepherd. I'm actually humbled that I would be in this particular setting to talk about someone very, very dear to me. My name is Rochelle Jones. I am Rochelle Wright Jones. I want to put that out there just in case some people don't know me by my married name. But I am originally from Baltimore. Dr. Shepherd is in my home city that I miss and love. Was born and raised there, and because of military, getting married to a military husband, hoorah to the Marine Corps, took us away from Baltimore, and we settled in Jacksonville, North Carolina, with our first child, our son, Brian. When we were there in North Carolina, I did all of the right things throughout the pregnancy. He was born full term, beautiful baby boy, and just right around 18 months to maybe about 2.5 years old, just kind of noticed that he was not progressing the way that the other boys his age were. We had a set of twins at the church that we belonged to in North Carolina. Shout out to New Covenant Ministries in North Carolina. There were a set of twins that were there, and they were boys. They were boys to the core. I mean, jumping off furniture, running into walls, wrestling and stuff. And Brian was looking like he wanted nothing to do with them. And they said, "Oh, Sister Jones, he'll be okay. He's an only child. He's very quiet. He'll start talking. He'll get used to everybody." And I just kind of watched him. And on base, the Marine Corps base, they had a program called Child Find. If anyone is in the military, for children that are, I think they start probably like about 6 months, 6 to 12 months, up to about 3 years old. You go into a session and you let your child play with the other children. They just kind of watch, and then they kind of bring back scores and what they noticed. Well, with Brian, they noticed what they called that he was developmentally delayed. That's what they labeled him at. He was maybe about 2 years old at the time. So he went to a program. They said, his communication is next to none. Brian was not talking at all. He maybe would give me about 5 words at 2. And, most 2-year-olds are very chatty. And he would come, a van would come to pick him up, and the van would take him to a session where he would stay for 2 hours, where they would just load him with vocabulary, try to give him new words to use and all of that, and try to prompt and pull him to speak. We went through that from about age 3 to age 5. I had my daughter when he was 3. She came out talking almost. But, it was really, really difficult. I thought it was also that his language was delayed because my husband's in the military. He went away on deployment for 6 months. And Brian, he would sit and he would stare at the door, waiting for my husband to come home. And when I would try to move him, he would have a complete meltdown.
Wow.
Every day.
Wow.
While my husband was gone, because he did not understand why his daddy was gone. And he would look at me thinking that I did something with him. I didn't do anything with him. He'll be back. But we did not get a full diagnosis that he was on the spectrum until we came back to Baltimore and went to Kennedy Krieger and had him evaluated. And then we found out that he was on to the mild to moderate end of the autism spectrum. After that, we went through the realm of IEPs and meetings and therapies and all of these things that I just did not understand. I could not even wrap my mind around what autism was. At that time, autism was 1 in 2,500. Now we know that it is much closer now. I think the last numbers I looked at was 1 in 66. It might be even shorter in that now because, we're able to see sooner and know what the indications are much sooner. It was practically new to us. We didn't know what to do, but I thank God for a community of people who stuck with me. They didn't know, exactly what to do or what to call it either, but they knew to love. They need to love, they need to support me and my husband. I'm not in this by myself. I also have an extraordinary husband who was stuck by me and stuck by us and stuck with his son throughout all of this. It has been a rough road, and anyone with special needs children, not just autistic children, but with special needs children, it is a rough road. Sometimes it is a lonely road because, you can't really go out like you would want to because you have to stay home with your child. You need to give him or her that type of stability. So, and then sometimes people don't understand when you go over the house and, your child is having a meltdown in the floor because they don't know where anything is. They don't know where the bathroom is. This place smells funny. The lights are too bright. It is a lot. But I just thank God for the community that he put with me, the support system that he gave, and also the ingenuity to know exactly what to do to try to navigate through this and see what his world looked like through his eyes.
Right. Wow. Such an awesome beginning. Thank you. And I already told you how to get your Kleenex. I told you to get your handkerchiefs because it's such a passionate topic. It's one that is going to move you. And so thank you, Lady Rochelle Jones. What we decided to do, and I'm kind of just again resetting the room. Thank you to all those who have joined, and people are already commenting, sending so many wonderful comments about you. Yes, 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 yes. You are a wonderful, a phenomenal mother. I believe that's one of the things that's already been stated. So, what we're going to do, audience, I'm going to introduce the other two mothers, and so they're going to, as they come on, they're going to talk a little bit about their stories. And so,
Mhm.
about midway through, we're going to have all three mothers come on, and we're going to talk about how they've been handling these particular special needs in the middle of a pandemic. And we want to talk about the extraordinary things that they are doing. So it is my job now to bring on the next mother who we're going to celebrate. And that is Jennifer White Johnson. And come on through. How are you doing?
I'm sorry, I was muted. My bad.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Lady Rochelle, for that amazing share. I can relate on so many levels, and so thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for holding space for us tonight. Because one of the things that being in this space reminds us of is that we aren't alone.
Mhm.
Have each other. Just a quick little brief background about myself. My name is Jennifer White Johnson, but I go by Jen. And a brief image description about me for those that have low vision, those who have disabilities, and that appreciate, the accommodations of being able to kind of describe myself and where I am. I'm actually in a basement, and I have like my little baby Yoda behind me. That's my son. um,
Yeah.
I live in a very playful world. I'm half black, half Puerto Rican, and my mom is actually in the chat. That's Sara Torres, white. She's
Yes.
from Orlando, and I have two
Mm.
moms on the call tonight. Actually, like my mother in love, Barbara
Mhm.
Johnson, and so I'm so happy to have the support of my own special mothers who have inspired me, my mothering journey, and I wouldn't really be here sitting here today if it wasn't for the both of them. Um,
Wow.
and the pandemic has taught me so much, to lean on them and to embrace them, not just as mothers but also as friends,
Mm.
as fellow sisters, because they've been able to raise their own kids and to understand what that mothering experience is like. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity, to be able to have my own chance now. I have cinnamon skin. My uncle used to say piel canela. Um, you know, so cinnamon skin. I'm wearing my little red headband,
Uh-huh.
homage to my fellow disabled advocate and artist Amanda Gorman.
Mm. Mhm.
I'm wearing earrings that say bonita, which is beautiful or pretty in
Mhm.
Spanish.
Mhm.
And I have a gap in my teeth. And I have my hair in a little ponytail, and I'm wearing like my favorite little jumpsuit. And so I'm excited to be here tonight, and I'm excited to hold space. And basically, I have undiagnosed ADHD, so I fidget a lot. I stutter a little bit. I'm very expressive, and I'm very dramatic. And I'm learning to exist, with that disability and what that means. Especially, in my role as a mother and also as an educator. The minute that I choose to disclose my disabilities and my differences to my students at Bowie State University, which is where I teach, they're like, "Thank you so much, Professor, for actually holding space for acknowledging that." Like I have
Mhm.
my own differences and my own disabilities that I feel hold me back in the classroom, when in essence, like they're a superpower. Like they really help to allow the student to embrace like how they learn, and how different it is, and how it needs to be accommodated for, and not necessarily separated or put over in a corner. um, my son was actually diagnosed as autistic when he was 2, and that's just been a really beautiful journey. And he was not full term. He was 2 pounds 15 ounces, and so I had a very traumatic birthing experience, and I still have post traumatic stress and anxiety resulting from that really different space, like where you're pregnant for 31 weeks, and then all of a sudden like you're not in control over your body, and you
Mm.
know God puts you on this really interesting path. um And so, you know, when he was diagnosed as autistic, like we were already like sheltering him, and we were already, you know, holding him close to us, because we were just appreciating like each day, you know, each day that we could actually experience like him as a child, and learning, you know, who we are as parents. And you know, instantly, you know, during his diagnosis, it was like we were, thankfully, you know, we had like a really beautiful, embracing community. Um, and we wanted to stay rooted in that community of service workers and care workers who really appreciated Knox, you know, which is my son, appreciated like how amazing he was. And but I felt like that support system only existed like in my little bubble, and in the world I felt like that support wasn't really there. And I felt like the stigma of Black autistic kids and Latino autistic kids, I felt like it was very much rooted in oppression. It was very rooted in, you know, disrespect, and it there, like even the way that parents would talk about their disabled kids was in a very disrespectful way. And it was oftentimes like this very sad, oppressive, heavy space, and there wasn't a lot of joy, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities for celebration and for accepting and honoring like your kids and their unique traits. And I really wanted to help change that narrative. And you know, I'm an artist and a designer, and I'm always constantly looking for that avenue of freedom of self-expression, you know, joy and mothering as an act of resistance, and what that could possibly mean for my own artistic journey and my own practice. And I knew that I really wanted to contribute something as an artist to help, you know, shift the narrative, you know. And I knew that that was very much like rooted in, okay, well, how can we take photography and design and use it to really empower the disability community, when oftentimes, you know, we don't, there's an absence of like disabled kids, Black and brown disabled kids in the media, whether it's film, whether it's, you know, in the books that we're reading. You know, half of the books that I have at my disposal are like full of Black and brown kids, but a lot of them aren't disabled. You know, a lot of them aren't necessarily talking about, you know, oh, I'm autistic and this is who I am and this is me. So I basically wanted to create something that I wasn't really seeing, and that wasn't really helping to define my son and myself like as a neurodiverse person, in the media. And that led to, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but that led to Knox Rocks, which is a photo zine. This is like kind of like my baby that really showcases just all of these little moments. And I mean, we might as well just get the tears started. You know, um, you know, one of the photos that I have in the book really helped to just examine, like I said, like the autistic joy, like the images, the smiles, you know, the spaces that we often don't really see honored in the media. And it's really like a beautiful love letter to the disability community. And this was actually a photo taken by my husband of Knox in the NICU. He was only a few days old, and he was just starting to breathe like on his own. And it was my first time being a mother, and you know, and honestly, like, I mean, just what the book helps to represent are like the beauty in the chaotic moments. And this was actually taken at my parents' old house in PG County. I miss it so much because now they're in Orlando, but and my parents were there for this shoot, and they remember like me tossing on the ground with my son. And my editors, Homie House Press, shout out to Adriana and Kate, who are my homegirls who, you know, edited the book for me, and I provided the design and the photography. But originally it was really just supposed to be Knox, like on the book, you know? And Adriana's like, no, Jen, like it needs to be the both of you. Like it needs to be that exchange between a disabled mother and her child. Because oftentimes, when do we really see this being celebrated and honored in life? Like in the moment, oftentimes what we see are mothers like Stephon Watts, you know, mothers like George Floyd's mom, like Mike Brown's mom, like holding pictures of their kids after the fact. And that guts me.
Wow.
Each time I think about that, and I'm like, what would it look like if there was a book that was actually out that celebrated like a neurodiverse mom and her autistic son, and just the power and the joy that can be seen in that, and it really just changed like my whole definition of just designing and what designing and joy and mothering as an act of resistance can really mean. And it means designing for like the community that is underserved, designing for the community that designing specifically what you don't see, what isn't just accessible. And I wanted to design something for my mom, for my dad, for Knox, for my family. I wanted to be able to make sure that the design and the artwork was like that it could resonate them on like a whole new level, so that they could feel like, well, this is how my daughter, this is how my family is like embracing disability. Like it's not, a disease that has to be cured. It's not like your child isn't broken. Like he just needs to be celebrated. And so I'm just super happy for this opportunity to just share that joy,
Yes. This is awesome. This is awesome, man. I'm so grateful that we started off this way. We've heard the story from Lady Rochelle Wright Jones, and now we've heard from the extraordinary mother of Jen White Johnson. And again, people are just commenting just about how powerful the stories are. And so just kind of, again, resetting the room that we are here today to celebrate the mothers. This is Women's History Month, but we're not have to go back in history. We're looking at the present day. We're looking at people who are doing the work, celebrating, again, mothers who have children with special needs. And I'm so excited to bring on our next mother. We work together at Hope Health Systems, and really it is her story that really prompted me to do this particular broadcast. And so I am so grateful that Jennifer Hegner Wilson is here, and we're going to bring her on without further ado. Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
Hello. Hi to the other moms. I think this is the week that I need moms even more than I ever have, especially moms of special needs. I just came back from the hospital. So that's why I'm a little disheveled, because I've been in the hospital all week.
Wow.
And I know some of my family may not know that we've been in the hospital all week. So my daughter is okay. But so yes, thank you so much for having me. And my daughter's story is one that I think just it needs to be told, and it needs to be told because things can go wrong. Things can happen that you don't expect. I had a normal pregnancy. Everything was normal up till the last 30 seconds. My daughter's actually one of the Johns Hopkins Radiothon ambassadors this year for our experience with Johns Hopkins. And the last 30 seconds, her heart rate dropped. It became an emergency delivery, and the cord was wrapped around her neck. She was barely breathing. She barely had a pulse. She was immediately taken away. I never even got to see her. She was rushed to the neonatal intensive care unit, and we witnessed a miracle that day. No one, the doctors, everyone, no one can explain how my daughter survived that first day of life, but except that it was a miracle. They were trying to do everything in their power to work with her, and she just started bleeding profusely from anywhere that they had done any type of stick. And they were not sure why. They thought this was just a typical, we need to cool the brain because she lost oxygen, and it turned into a very emergent situation. And we had her baptized. And after the baptism, she started clotting. Her heart rate went up. Her blood pressure went to a normal range, and she actually looked a lot better. And but then they realized that her stomach was growing, and they didn't know why. And she was sent to an emergency surgery at 4 days old, where they found out that her stomach had ruptured and 90% of her stomach was gone. She came back pinker, without blood all over her and everything, after that first surgery. And that was the first of 9 surgeries she had. So she had 9 surgeries in the first 4 months of life. A lot of them were just to clean out her abdominal cavity and get it ready because we had to figure out what to do, how to reconnect her digestive tract so she could eat. And at 4 months old, she had her 9th surgery, which was to reconnect everything. They realized they couldn't grow her stomach to connect her stomach like they thought they were going to. So they created a pouch out of her small intestines and created a whole new digestive tract the way it went through her system. And she just flourished after that. We were discharged from Johns Hopkins 2 months later. We were in Kennedy Krieger for only a month, and then has been home ever since. She actually now has a little sister, so if you hear sneezes and everything, that's the 3-month-old. And we have our ups and downs. The surgery had never been done on an infant before, so every day is a new day, and every day can come up with its own trial and tribulations with her. She eats fully by mouth. She is spunky. She is happy. She loves everyone around her. The only lasting effect she has is chronic kidney disease, which means we will have a kidney transplant in the next few years. And we were rushed to the hospital Monday night for hypoglycemia. So because of this new digestive tract, she's having trouble digesting all of the sugars and everything. And so they're coming up with a plan currently for her so that when we bring her back home, we have diet changes and everything. So it started as an ordinary situation and it became extraordinary. And through the radiothon, we were able to raise almost $10,000 for the Johns Hopkins NICU department alone for the Child Life Services and their chaplain. And it's a journey that I wouldn't trade for the world, because although she is special needs in her medical wise, we have a second family, and we have gained so much from that, and we've gained so much knowledge. And she's a fighter, and she's meant to do something, and I believe that's why she's still here.
Wow. Woo. If you ever got your handkerchief or Kleenex or something, yes, please. This is just awesome today. Wow. Just kind of give us a breather here. That was a tremendous story and miracle. I mean, the way which you just told it, just so succinctly. Wow. It leaves me a little bit speechless, to be honest with you. These are some extraordinary mothers. You need to call someone now, because we're about to get into the discussion portion. Man, I mean, we're right on time too, halfway through the show. But you need to get somebody, you need to call them, you need to text them, you need to let them know on social media that this particular broadcast will encourage you and inspire you. I can even just see how it's encouraging even the three of you all, just hearing the stories. I'm just looking at just the different comments that are being said. This is inspirational. This is what we need right now. So much that has continued to occur in our society due to the COVID-19 pandemic and racial injustice, and just so much that is occurring currently that we really need to hear these stories. And so let's just dive a little bit deeper now. I want you to talk about what adjustments did you have to make due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I know, Lady Jones, you really showcased us this past week some of the breakthroughs, and we talked a little bit about, but I want you to share a little bit, each of you, just about some of the things that you've had to manage, how you had to juggle, because mothers need to be celebrated during this time. Let me just say this one comment. I have a problem with companies who are firing the women who are staying at home with their children who have special needs. I'm just going to tell you, Dr. Shepard got a problem with you, all right? Because I don't see how is it that you let these important people go. I understand we got to make sure that business is profitable, but we want to make sure that we fight for equity. We fight for the rights of our mothers. So again, I'll get off my high horse on that one. But let's hear a little bit about Lady Jones, about your experience with your son.
Okay, I just want to say my sisters are absolutely awesome. And I've never met you, but I love both of you. And to others who may be commenting and joined us during this, I just want to say that for parents, grandparents, aunties, caretakers, all of those people who have children who are not special needs, teach them sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them sensitivity. I will never forget, and I'll jump into it, Dr. Shepherd. I will never forget, I was listening to my sister's talk. When my son was in school, he was maybe in 6th grade, and I had gone to a parent-teacher conference. And we went to Brian's class. He was in a full inclusion class. And I saw a little boy, he had his mother by the hand, and he was introducing mommy, that's Joey, that's my friend, and that's Susie, she's my friend, and that's so-and-so, they like to play basketball with me. And I was standing there, and Brian was kind of like doing his little thing. And he said, and that's Brian, he's crazy.
Wow.
And she didn't correct him.
Wow.
She just took him by the hand and said, and just took him and just kind of smiled at me and walked away.
Mm.
So I would just say that the hardest thing to break is the stigma. And Jen said that also. The hardest thing to break is the stigma, but it starts at home. If we will begin teaching our children that all of God's children are special. All of God's children are different. All of them have differences. Like my sister said, should be celebrated. And I wish that she would have said, no. He's, let's go over, let's meet Brian. Let's, meet his mom. Because I was looking right at her. She didn't say anything. She just gave this kind of smirk and she kind of scurried away. I think that's where it starts. It starts with our children, because then the children grow up to be adults. So I would just say to really teach your children about sensitivity and about really being respectful of the differences in others. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Let me just say this real quick, Lady Jones.
Yes,
so
sir.
you can get yourself together just real quick here. So I define stigma, and this is a definition that I really have stuck to. Stigma is the interplay between power and negative stereotyping. Why is that so important? Because when we allow stigma, it is a power play, and it's all about negative stereotyping. Stigma is about the interplay. I'm gonna say it again: power and negative stereotyping. And we have got to decrease the power. We've got to change the negative stereotyping. Yes. That's all stigma is, you all. Mm-hmm. And so with that, what the negative stereotyping, the power, it causes people who are vulnerable populations to be taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. And so that's why stigma is so important. So you might go, why are we talking about stigma? Because that's why. There's power behind it, and there's negative stereotyping that leads to a vulnerable population being marginalized. Does that make sense? All right. Had to make sure that I get that definition now. All right. So now just 2 minutes real quick, because I want to make sure I get these other bundles. We got to make sure we get equitable time on here.
Yes, sir. So when the pandemic started, before the pandemic started, Brian has always been working with communication. Brian is a very, very affectionate child. We have to put a whoa and a stop on him when he meets people, because he wants to hug everybody. He gets it on from his mother. I'm a hugger. And then the pandemic came, and we had to tell him, no, Brian, no more hugs. And he's like, no, Brian, no more handshakes, elbows. But, and he wants to know, why does he have to cover his face? Why is everybody's face covered? What is that mask? I don't want to, he didn't want to wear the mask. He would purposely leave it home. So I had to carry an extra one because he didn't want to put it on. He didn't understand, and I had to show him, everybody has this on. Everybody's wearing it. He was in his routine to go to his center, and he cried for 2 weeks straight in March because he could not go to the center. And he pleaded, mommy, please, center, mommy, please bus. And it broke my heart because I think he felt like he was being punished, that he had done something wrong, why he could not go to the center. He didn't understand. He still doesn't understand pandemic. He doesn't understand why he's in the house all the time. He doesn't understand it. But just back in January, we were home on a Sunday. And just so happened, I was scrolling through Facebook and I found this resource called the Garden Foundation. The Garden Foundation. And the Garden Foundation is a program for special needs adults. They meet every day on Zoom for about 2 hours, I think, and they provide activities and they provide socialization and communication for our special needs children of any ability that they have. There are people on there that are in wheelchairs that are just looking at the Zoom. They have people who are autistic. They have Down syndrome. They have all different types of abilities. But my son is absolutely elated. He gets on there at 2:00. Tribe, mommy, tribe, and he knows how to dial in on his own. I taught him how to sign in on Zoom. He knows how to put on the video, and he gets up real close to the camera, and he's learning names, and everyone is socializing and saying hi. Last Friday, I had to post because I often, at times, the enemy will try to bring up comparison with my son. Mm-hmm. Look at so-and-so who's 29. And is married. Look at so-and-so who's 29 and has children. Look at this one who's driving, different things. And my son. But my son plays the drums at church. He's our principal drummer at the church. And if anybody knows the Kojic church, you got to be able to keep a beat. And Brian is the heartbeat of our church. And when the district lets him play and the jurisdiction, he's not autistic behind the drums. I promise you, he is not. He can keep up with the best musicians. But during this pandemic, this organization has really helped to bring him out of his shell, to bring him out of his room, because he was staying in his room all day, just watching television, looking at YouTube videos, coming out to eat and go to the bathroom and back in his room because he didn't know that there was anything else to do. This has given him an outlet, and I'm so thankful to the people who have tried to get some type of normalcy during this pandemic, and that is the best thing that we can do, try to bring out some sense of normalcy for our children and even for us, because this took a big weight off of me. Even though I'm teleworking at home, it helped me to bring some normalcy to my son.
Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Come on, jump right on in, Jen Johnson. How has the pandemic affected your ability to work with your child?
Thank you so much, Lady Rochelle. That was beautiful. I'm trying so hard to not just burst into tears right now. And I want to, what you were talking about, shifting the stigma. And I want to read just a quick excerpt from a working definition of ableism by disability lawyer Talila Lewis. And so ableism is a system that places value on people's bodies and minds based on basically society's constructed ideas of normalcy, intelligence, excellence, and productivity. And so that is really what stigma is rooted in. It's rooted in how we think that our kids need to act and that they're not quote unquote normal. And ableism really helps to perpetuate that narrative. It's like, oh, well, because your kid doesn't speak in this way, or because they don't move in this way, or because they don't express themselves in this way, then they're less than, they're disposable. And that's really a narrative that's rooted in so much ableism. And then there's the essence of internalized ableism that our disabled kids walk around with, feeling well, I'm not good enough because, I'm quote unquote crazy, or I'm different. And as you said, it really starts at home. It really starts with us having that conversation of acceptance, from the minute that they even enter into school for the first time. And we were prepared. And so when the pandemic hit, I was able to send his teachers. And so like I'm a designer, so everything is translated into art. And so basically what you see here is a little book, and it's a zine, and it says, "Hi, my name is Kevin." And so we actually gave this to his kindergarten and first grade teachers. And then when it came to second grade, we sent this to them. And we were like, "My name is Kevin." And so basically it opens up, and it basically tells the teacher, like, this is who I am. So I was born on October 11th, 2012. I was 2 pounds, 15 ounces. I'm happy, 6 years old. This was when, like, we first made this when he was 6, and I'm ready for new adventures. And we actually gave this to the principal, his teacher, his special educator. We didn't have time, but we would have made copies for all the kids, like, in the class. And then what it does, it actually folds out into a letter. It folds out into like an actual letter, a long letter that actually is like a manifesto that's written to his teacher about how we don't our family doesn't really operate in a space of ableism. We don't really run in a space of, oh, we just need to be aware that autism exists. It's like, no, we need to accept that autism is, and that it should be celebrated. Whatever, that definition of autism or disability is like in a family. And it specifically talks about that, like his story, the things that he's interested in. And we didn't hesitate. I mean, the minute that he entered into kindergarten, and he actually helped us write this, and it talks about like his challenges. So and I'm used to giving presentations, and I'm used to sharing my screen. So sorry if this is a lot to process, but the little book says like my challenges. And it lists like everything that he has challenges with, like unexpected transitions. I'm easily distracted. I don't like it when people rapidly repeat requests without giving me an opportunity to process the instructions in the first place. It's basically helping to say, look, like these ableist constructs that you place in society and that sometimes exist in schools aren't going to translate specifically to my my humanity and to my identity as an autistic kid, and those are the conversations that we can begin having now with them, as they exist in these spaces now, especially virtually. He'll get up, and thank you so much to Nana, Barbara Johnson, that's able to kind of sit with him and work with him throughout the day. And then oftentimes, like, my husband and I will kind of sit in there too, like when we're not working, and we'll say, get up, take a break, dance, move. And then like, we'll do it together. Like we're in there working out, and we're moving, and we're celebrating with him, because it's like, we have to help model, that beautiful behavior, like that acceptable behavior. Like if he's fidgeting and if he's singing, oftentimes like we join him, and if he gets loud, we're like, okay, quiet down. In 20 minutes you can sing the song again, but now we need to kind of like simmer down a little bit. But if we can't really help to like establish acceptance within our own home, and Lady Rochelle, like as you were talking about sensitivity, I was thinking about empathy and making sure that kids understand, that not everyone is going to exist like me. Not everyone is going to have the same body. Not everyone is going to speak the way that I do. And we have to be able to like prepare our kids for that world, and we're doing them a disservice. And if anything that this pandemic taught us this past summer is that the majority of people that are continuing to be brutalized by state violence, or whether it's like within their own communities, are folks that are dealing with disabilities, intellectual disabilities. They're dealing with psychosis. They're dealing with so many different elements of their bodies not necessarily being the same, whether they're wheelchair users or walking with a cane. They can't move as quickly. They're dealing with bipolar disorder, and instantly there's no relationships with like acceptance and being able to really understand these conversations. And so I really spend a lot of my time like designing little things, like a lot about autistic joy, and we spend a lot of time like really celebrating art and also like designing in a very different and unique way that really helps to kind of paint a really beautiful picture of autism and what it could potentially mean, just
Yeah,
for itself. So
absolutely.
lots of freedom of expression in our house, and honestly, like they have to set the example. I don't know, I think we really just want to raise leaders.
Yep, yep. This is so good. This is so good. I'm about to let you talk real quick, Jen. Just want to kind of just reset the room just real quick here. Man, this has just been so inspiring. And Jen Wilson, we want to hear from you about what you've been challenged with the pandemic. But also in your address, I want you to deal with one of the questions that one of our viewers asked, and she's all the way out in the Bay Area. So I want you to know that we have people across the country who are watching us right now. This is not anything different. I'm used to having people watch us from across the country. I told you people are going to be tuned in, and let me tell you, we are already hitting some high numbers for this episode for live views because you all are just doing such a remarkable job encouraging other parents and in particular mothers. So, Jen, I want you just to talk a little bit about, but the question that was asked was, can anyone speak to the change in sleep-wake patterns with their child during the pandemic, and how did you manage that change? So I'm going to allow you to address that question in addition to address any specific things that you saw within your own family.
Hello. Sleep-wake patterns. I'm thinking about that one with us, but Kinsley is only 2.5 years old. So I think a lot of our sleep-wake patterns are also part of her growing up and getting older as it is. And she had a new sister. So I don't know if any of that for us was due to COVID and or just being inside or anything. I think it's the typical development for her. COVID, there have been challenges because Kinsley has chronic kidney disease. That is one of the high flyers for COVID, and they need to stay inside. They need to be protected. So there was a lot of fear at the beginning. She had just started going to daycare, and then we had to pull her out because everyone's initial response was she needs to be home. But quite honestly, we had a lot of wonderful things happen in COVID. Kinsley was hospitalized for 198 days in the hospital. So we got to spend time with her at home. We were all home. Our whole family was home. So although we lost that time with her in the hospital, we gained it back through having to be home during COVID.
Wow.
That was just the biggest gift we could ever have with her. Also, she hasn't been sick until this past week in a year, which means her kidney levels and numbers have increased, which means we are further away from a kidney transplant than we were a year ago.
Wow.
So for us having this, like being inside and everyone's washing their hands and taking precautions, since all of Kinsley's issues are around her medical health, have actually made things a lot safer for her. And the only challenge I can think of is her only delay is gross motor. So being able to run and jump and everything that a 2-year-old should be able to do. So playgrounds being closed down, indoor play places being closed down, we struggle more with getting her that activity she needs to reach her targets for being a 2-year-old. But besides that, when you go back to the stigma, I was actually having this conversation with the doctors this morning because now we have to take sugar completely out of her diet. And I asked them, well, what if she goes to a birthday party? What if she does this? What if she does that? She's going to be different because not only does she have a feeding tube, but now she can't have birthday cake. She can't have most likely anything being given to her at a party or a friend's house when she gets older. And unfortunately, the doctors don't have much of an answer except she can't. So just like you guys as mothers had to find unique ways of helping your child grow and feel included, we're now going to have to find our own unique ways to make sure that she doesn't feel different, even though she is going to be different because for medical reasons, she's going to need things the other children are not going to. So stigma is a big thing, and it's a conversation that's constantly held in my household between my husband and I, because she's different and we want to celebrate those differences, but we also don't want those differences to bring her down, because it has shaped her the way she is, and she's going to have more compassion because of it. You don't want anyone else to see her as different or not normal, because she might eat different things, or she might have a feeding tube for medications, or she might have to go to the hospital several times. When she's in the hospital, she's like celebrated. I call it a hotel for her, because everyone's excited to see her. They absolutely love her like she's one of their own. So she has this own special attention there that other children would never get to experience. And it's a love, and the love that you see, I think that's what makes us the most emotional, is seeing all of the people that love her, and are there for her and want to care for her. And they're celebrating. Yes, they don't want her in the hospital, but because of COVID, we can't visit them. So we went into the hospital, and I think there was a chain of messages around saying, Kinsley's in the hospital, Kinsley's here, so they could all come and say hi. So sometimes there's a push and pull with the struggles we have, because there's also amazing things that come of it as well.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing just that contrast, because that contrast is so important. And Jen, I want you to get ready again just to share some of the information about the Radiothon, how people can continue to donate. But I think you said something, I know you said something that was very powerful, because we think about the pandemic and we think about how it has shut us down. We think about all the negative effects. We think about how the different crises that have occurred that have caused us to want to shut down. It really has put on pause. Unfortunately, some people have switched from pause to actually stopped in their believing, in their dreaming, in so many different areas of their lives. But you said something that was so powerful, that your daughter actually kind of like hit the reset button. It is like she is now further away from a kidney transplant due to the pandemic. Isn't that something? When a global healthcare crisis comes, we think about, oh man, all the bad things that go along with it. But again, this is shifting. This is the reason why we have these type of forums. I want to be attached to people who are going to inspire me, who are going to inspire you as viewers. And so thank you for saying that, because it's not all bad. You have just given us a wonderful example of how we're able to see a young lady like your daughter, be pushed away. Ultimately, she may need a kidney transplant. Who knows? God may work another miracle. We just don't know. But we're thankful that for right now, she's safe where she's at. And so what I want you to do, Jen, is just tell the people about this Radiothon, how they can contribute. We've heard from the two other mothers and things that they have done. So I want you just to share a little bit about how people can be a part. And I'm going to put this in the chat.
Yes, and I will also put the link in the chat. So kids are in the hospital, and they can be in the hospital for an extended period of time. And a lot of times when you're taking care of a child, you're taking care of the family. So we all know that a lot of things are either covered by insurance or uninsured for medical reasons, but there are things that make a hospital a home for those families that are there. Like I've said, Kinsley was hospitalized for 198 days, and this past week we've been there since Monday. There are things that Johns Hopkins Children's Center supplies to us that are not covered by insurance, but they do it from dollars raised from fundraisers like the Radiothon. For example, yesterday, Child Life Services, which is funded through Radiothon dollars, it's a group of people who come in and they help with not only the mental health, but they help with like scary situations like getting stuck with a needle. They come in and see what you need. Unfortunately, all the playrooms are closed in the hospital because of COVID. So we're stuck in our room. They came in yesterday with a mat and toys. They asked me what toys Kinsley liked, and she jumped off of that sofa couch that we were sitting on faster than I've seen her move in the last couple of days, because she finally had something new to do while she's stuck in this room. Radiothon dollars help with things like that. Getting toys for these kids, blankets. We've been given studio puzzles to do while she was in surgery. Something so tiny that you wouldn't even think about, but it relaxes our mind. So when she's back in her room with us, we can focus on her and we're not focusing on the stress. There are things like there was a box that was made to put her in to help her developmentally learn how to grab things. And those boxes aren't, I mean, they're donated they're made with donations. We got little care packages every now and then, and stories for Kinsley. I mean, the list can go on. They even use those Radiothon dollars to pay the chaplain who baptized our daughter her salary. She is one of the most important people in our lives in the NICU, because she was always there, and she was always there to check on us. We've been there inpatient and walking to get food at 11 o'clock at night, and we see her because she's on call 24/7, and she'll be there whenever you need her to without even thinking twice about it. And those are the things the family and the nurses and doctors sometimes need, those comforts to help them serve the family. To this day, the staff at Johns Hopkins says, "We didn't save your daughter, it's you two that did." And because we showed up every day and we were there and we were trying to take care of ourselves and her and showing her love. But to us, they saved her and gave us the support to be able to be there. So things like that are from these Radiothon dollars, just to help. And I can put in the chat the link. They raise money every year through multiple different fundraisers, but this one in particular, it has Kinsey's story on it. And I believe the link is open until April to donate, to continue to support these families going through something that no one wants to go through. But we all hope that if we have to go through it, we show up somewhere and we get something that makes it feel a little bit more like home. It's happy but sad for me to say, although it's been stressful running back and forth between a hospital this week, it's also very comforting to be there, because they gave us so much comfort that it is our second home with her there. And we know she's in the best hands she can be in, which means I can come home and take care of her sister and still be the mom I have to be to her sister, just like I am to her.
Wow.
And those comforts, you need those.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Ooh. This is powerful, powerful, powerful. So yes, if you would go ahead and put that link in the chat, and we'll be glad to share that. I want to encourage all those who are listening, whether you are listening live or if you're watching the replay, I want you to share. I've been encouraging people to share back and forth with your listeners. So thank you, Jen. I've got it here. And so what I'm going to do is while the next person is speaking, I will go ahead and copy that and put it into the public chat. And then that way everybody will have that. I'm going to commit even publicly, as I have already told you, to being a part of this particular radiothon. Yes, anybody who knows me knows that when I put my word behind something, it's golden. So you might as well take it to the bank. And so I want others out there to do the same. And it doesn't matter what amount of money it is. It's just the fact that you're contributing. I mean, that really is it. You know, we want to make sure that you are supporting these mothers. And I can even feel it now. And again, I don't want to stay there too much, but I feel the unity. These three mothers, they've never met each other that I'm aware of. But yet that you can feel the bond. And this is the things that we need to make sure that we see more of. And you will see more of this on Ask the Doctors. We're going to start concluding this. Almost over 40 people are still with us, and we're already over an hour. That means that people are loving it. And I do not want to abuse your time out there. I don't want to abuse the time of the viewers. I just want you to, Lady Rochelle, Jen Johnson, just give real quick, if you would, please, 2 minutes, just whatever you will want people to do. If there's any resources that you will want them to have, I know both of you have shared some resources already. And if there's anything else that you will want people to know, things that you may want them to pray for, things that you may want them to do, whatever it is, please, this is the time to do it. I wanted Jen Wilson, who already did that. We purposely had talked about the radiothon, but if there's anything else that you will want them to share, just these last 2 minutes, encourage the mothers that are out there, encourage the people who are watching, even encourage the men. The men are even talking. I think your husband I saw on here, Lady Jones, and I've seen so many different people who I know from throughout the country, folks down in Virginia. Oh my God, I want to start calling names down in Miami, Florida. I mean, just across the country, people are watching right now and will watch. I guarantee you we'll have triple the number of views by this time next week. So please share those words. Now we'll start with you first, Lady Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Shepherd. It has just been a joy to be here on tonight. I am going through a myriad of emotions right now, trying to hold myself together through this whole thing. I want us to really link and pray. My prayer in the early morning hours is to pray for those disabled children, no matter how old, and for their parents and caretakers. That has been my prayer. A friend of mine, back when Brian was first diagnosed, she had a daughter with cerebral palsy. And she was remarkable. Probably need to have her on here as well. But she told me that when she found out the diagnosis for her daughter, the Lord took her to the verse, and I was trying to find it. I'm so nervous I couldn't find it. But it talks about when Jesus went to someone bought, the blind man came to Jesus, and the disciples said, Lord, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? And Jesus said, neither one. This was done that the Lord might be glorified. I had a hard time accepting my son's disability. I had a hard time. At first, I thought it was my fault.
Wow.
And she gave me that verse. And God has shown himself, as he has shown and proved himself through my sister's stories and so many other people, that our children are special and they are blessed. It is done that God might be glorified. It is by the grace of God that Kinsley is here. It's by the grace of God that Knox is here. It's by the grace of God that Brian is here, that he might be glorified. How can our children excel? How can our children do all of these things except God be with them? So I'm going to be praying for everyone on all of the parents that are going through. I pray that the Lord will give you peace, that he will give you creativity, that he will give you ingenuity. So someone has said, my child has been nocturnal, since the start of the pandemic. Pray a prayer of sleep. On that child, of peace on that child, peace in the household, peace over that child, peace over yourself, peace over your atmosphere. I'm not talking out of turn, Dr. Shepherd, on the doctors.
No, you're good. You're good.
I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of prayer. And that is what has helped me throughout this journey with my son. Every day has not been rosy. I have not been shouting and praising God the whole thing. Some days we are at odds, and I'm in tears and he's in tears and everybody's just a mess. I shout out to my husband, who is awesome. But I would just say, keep prayer. If anybody will inbox me, Rochelle Jones, on Facebook, I'll send you scriptures that I have. I have some other parents on here who share scriptures with each other and pray for one another. This is what is going to get us through. And I just pray that the Lord will continue to bless you and show that it's all for his glory.
Absolutely. Oh, please. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because we understand when we talk about mental health, you have to talk about the mind, and we have to talk about the different 4 aspects of it: your potential, your ability to cope, your ability to work, and your ability to make a contribution. And we understand that if you're going to have good mental health, that we have to acknowledge our Creator. And so please, that is right in lie with Ask the Doctors. All right. Anybody who knows me knows. So, yeah. And, you know, we already talked about the chaplain who was there for Jen's family, for Kinsley. You know, that was remarkable to hear that. And so, again, I see people are forwarding this to your parents. Parents, you need to get together. Those mothers who've been discouraged, you've been at your wits' end. Jen Johnson, I haven't forgotten you, but I just got to say this right now. Those who've been at their wits' end, you need to forward this broadcast to them. It will help them. This broadcast needs to go viral because it's going to help some mother, some parent who's been struggling right now. And so thank you, Lady Jones, and thank you for being able to even say, if someone reached out to you, that you would supply them with scriptures, would supply them with prayer, because those things will help us in the coping process. All right, Jen Johnson, come on. 2 minutes.
I was taking notes and I was jotting down things, you know. But first off, thank you so much, Lady Rochelle and Jen, for just existing and for being amazing humans and mothers. The chat has really been on fire because, you know, what this continues to amplify and show us is that we're not alone and we have the support. We just need to go out and get it and be intentional, you know, about what that support means for us as parents, and then also for our kids. And so one of the things that I just want to leave behind is just remember to be authentic, remember to be transparent. You know, we're not really here to like encourage our kids to mask and to norm and to be quote unquote normal. Like you heard a lot of us say that tonight, and it's for a reason, because we're already so like disability is already so rooted in oppression and in ableism, and so we're already thinking that our kids are not really, you know, okay, and that they need to be fixed, and to me, like, that's just not like a really true, authentic, and genuine place to be. And if we're asking for our kids to mask and to kind of hide away like the things that make them so amazing and powerful, then that means that, you know, that there's something wrong with the world. If they're forcing our kids to comply, and if they're forcing our kids into this box, into this bubble of ableism, period, of what is not really truly genuinely who they were meant to be. And so, yeah, that's just really what I want to leave you with, is just that the authenticity really needs to start with us, because, you know, and even as parents, like when we doubt ourselves, like our kids are consistently showing us that they're going to be fine, you know, that they're going to be okay, because they're learning that kindness and that humanity, and that love, like from us, you know. And so as long as we pump that out, you know, I want to believe that Knox will continue to be a leader, that Kinsley will be a leader, you know, that our kids will continue to just blow our minds completely, you know. But it really has to start with complete transparency and authenticity. And the minute that we really try to hide or to associate shame, that's when, you know, the conversation, like we're really perpetuating the conversation of anti-acceptance completely. And that's what, and the world, you know, the world already believes in that narrative, and they promote that narrative. I mean, you know, the minute that someone walks differently or operates a little bit differently, they have to call that person out. Oh, they're unwell. Like there's something wrong with them. Like, you know, we like they can't be on camera, or we need to hide them away. And that's not really holding like our community in high regard, you know? And so that's why, you know, spaces like this need to continue, because you need to hear it from the source. You need to hear it from the parents that are actually living the experience, but specifically parents that are uplifting like their kids and their families, you know, because this is a very joyful space for all of us tonight. And because, you know, we can't be together physically, and we haven't seen our family members. Like, I haven't seen my mom and dad in over a year, and it's like affecting me. But we're still like together, and these stories are what are going to continue to unite us, and they're going to continue to uplift us. And then, like, in 20 years, these are the moments that we're going to remember, and these are the moments that we're going to like reach back to. It's like, oh, remember like that talk when we were able to like celebrate our kids and celebrate our differences, and here we are now, like, leaders, you know, and our kids are like leading the way, you know, and hopefully society will be a better place that doesn't operate in these really interesting, you know, constructs that are rooted so much in oppression, you know. So we have to encourage our kids to be radical, and prayer is the only thing that will continue to hold us in that safe space, you know. Sleeping, yeah, it's not the same. And my son is like up at 2 a.m. and he wants to come into our bed, and he wants to snuggle in between us, and he's gained like 15 pounds like since the pandemic, because he has like 3 meals a day. And I'm like, what is going on with you? Like, you keep growing, and he's eating us out of house and home. But it's still very beautiful to witness. And all we can do is ask for peace. And where does that peace come from? It comes from above. Like, that is the peace that is the only type of peace that can restore us. And that's the only kind of peace that I know that I want, and that really operates in a very, you know, restorative way. Because if it was left in my control, I would fall apart, you know. I would, you know, and that's okay. It's okay to kind of have moments of anxiety, and we need to be able to, like I said, we need to be able to be transparent for our kids, and we can't always be like on point at every moment. But then we also need to remember that that safe space is in prayer, and it's in knowing that, you know, that God just has that special place for us, and that's why we exist. But we need to talk about it, and we need to share it, because if we keep it inside, like, you know, what's the point of that? What's the point of really holding it in? Because other families need that support, and it's very clear, like in the chat, like a lot of people are resonating with everything that we're saying, and it's like 3 unique moms with kids who have very unique disabilities and differences, and all of our kids operate in different ways, but they all have a soul, and they're all covered, you know, they're all covered by prayer and that peace and that safe space that we can actually manifest, you know, for each other. So
gotcha. This is wonderful. Jen Wilson, just before we end, is there anything that you want to just say, as last parting comments, and then I'll wrap this up?
Yes. When you're talking about stigma and inclusion, you never know when you're going to wake up and you're going to be one of the moms on the other side. And you really need to think about that, because what you're teaching now is going to just play out in your child's life. But also on the flip side, you are going to need strong, powerful women and mothers on your side going through these different types of changes, and like something that's not normal with your child. So leaning on those around you, and those who understand or are willing to understand, even if they've never been there, is the most important thing you can receive, so that you can do everything you can for your own child. But you just don't know when you're going to need a hospital or a Kennedy Krieger or anything like that, until it happens to you. So make sure you're aware of it, and you're doing what you can to be a part of the solution and not the problem.
Absolutely. Well stated. Well stated. Wow. This has just been, I mean, just speechless. I mean, if you haven't shed a tear during this, if you haven't laughed, if you haven't smiled, I'm not sure what's going on with you. But this has just been a tremendous time of sharing inspiration together. I am so thankful that the bravery and courage. Let me just say this before we conclude. The bravery and courage that you 3 mothers have demonstrated today far exceeds much of what we have read about in so many different stories. I would say that you are some of the most courageous women that exist, or courageous people, let me say it like that exist on earth today, because you continue to fight not only what you have to deal with on an individual level, but you fight what the society may try to put on you as far as the pressures of handling your child with special needs. And so thank you. Don't give up the fight. That really was my point of bringing us together, to continue to encourage one another in this pandemic. I've told people that in this pandemic has changed us. Whether or not you wanted to be changed or not, it has changed us. It has changed me. And you can either change for the worse or you can change for the better. And so I choose to change for the better. So when I went into this pandemic, I was one way, but when I'm coming out, and we are coming out, I am coming out a different person. And so we even are thankful for the children. We believe that Kinsley will come out. She'll come out whole, and we continue to cover her for her speedy recovery as she's still in the hospital. And I'm so thankful for the peace that has been talked about by Jen, by both Jens, and by Lady Rochelle. So thank you for all of your comments. Oh my Lord, it has been blowing up. So thank you all out there. If I start calling names, I'll get in trouble. I will say this. I don't believe anybody from Mexico has ever been on the Ask the Doctors before, but I even saw some person from Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico. So that is awesome. Yes, we normally can reach over into Canada, over to the continent of Africa. But this, I think, is the first time we reached over to the country of Mexico. So yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, well, look who is here. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Wonderful. You got to unmute yourself and just say hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Come back. Do you want to say anything to everyone? Knock, knock.
Okay. Who's there?
Panther.
You said Panther?
Panther.
Panther, okay. Panther who?
Panther, no pants. I'm going swimming.
Oh my God.
No pants, I'm going swimming. I just wanted for him to say hey, and I wanted knock. And I wanted for you to see a little bit of some autistic joy tonight. Monkey too.
Gotcha. Oh, well, it's great to see you, man. That was great. That's an awesome way to end out. Mother, still stay on. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. We'll conclude. But thank you all. Hope Health Systems, the sponsor of this particular broadcast. We are located in Baltimore. I should say headquartered in Baltimore. We have several locations. And with that location, we'll be glad, or the locations where we're at, we'll be glad to service you if you're in need of direct care services. We do treat children who have autistic spectrum disorder or other behavioral needs. Yes, we do provide those services. We are in a wealth, as Jen has talked about, with Kennedy Krieger being here, Johns Hopkins. But, Hope Health is the third largest provider of children's mental health services in the state of Maryland, only behind Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland. So let me just tell you, we can't compete with them because they're hospitals. We're not a hospital. But when it comes to children's mental health services, you can't get better than Hope Health Systems. And I am proud to be the chief medical officer, the chief medical director of that facility. I take my job seriously. I'm not here to brag, but just let you know that we're here to help you. That's the purpose of me saying all that. And yes, and so Jen Wilson, we work right along together. We've seen some of the, oh yes, I go back to our days as Samuel. Lord Jesus, we've seen some of the worst. But even in spite of that, we still are fighting for children's mental health needs and for their rights. So 410-265-8737 is our number. HopeHealthSystems.com. You can go online if you're in need of services. Thank you all. This has been wonderful. I didn't cry too much, but I tell you, you definitely have inspired me today. And thank you all for those who are out there listening. Please share. We want to make sure that this goes viral. We want to make sure that you have encouraged those parents who need to be encouraged. And we'll check you out next week We'll flip the script just a little bit next week. Got some more surprises for you for the month of March. But as you see, we're not about to stop here. We're about to come up on the 1-year anniversary of Ask the Doctors, believe it or not. And so I'm just getting going. I'm not even tired yet. So check you out next week, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Meet me back at the same place. Have a blessed weekend. Remember to wash your hands, still wear your mask, double mask actually now, and watch your physical distance. All right. And then wait on gatherings. Yes, I know you've been vaccinated, but we still got to do these 4 W's. All right. Till we see you next time. Take care.